Hi everyone, it's Connor once again. Today we're going to do our first lesson in how to create a scale outline, or at least what I call a scale outline, for a tune that you might be working on. Now so far in this video series we've just been dealing with playing scales up and down as a most basic format. So for example, a C major scale up and down would look like this. And a C dominant 7 scale would look like this, up and down. With that flat 7, right? So what we can do now is we can take this basic practice of playing scales, just like I just demonstrated, and apply them to different forms that we like to play over in jazz. And for today we're going to start with the 12-bar blues. And typically when people start playing the blues, they either do it in the key of F or B flat. And just for today, I'm gonna pick B flat because it's the unspoken band key, right? And it's probably the first key you ever learned to play in as an instrumentalist, or maybe a vocalist too. So why are we starting with scale outlines instead of just going right into improvisation? Well, the reason is this: because we're mainly dealing with scales in improvisation, we have to establish the fundamental of just being able to play the scales straight, just plain Jane as they are before we try improvising over them. It's like you didn't learn how to run before you learned to crawl, right? You learned how to crawl before you learned how to walk and all that. So how we master anything in life or music or whatever profession you are, you need to take each individual skill and break it down into its small basic elements, and then you master it from the ground up. And for improvising, it really starts here with scale practice. So today we're going to be dealing with the 12-bar blues form in the key of B flat. Now I'm going to go through the chord changes really quick here, and a majority of you watching this are probably fairly familiar with blues form, but what I believe real blues form has a couple different chord changes that you may or may not be used to, but you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. So basic blues form, if we're doing it in the key of B flat major, starts with B flat 7 for a bar, E flat 7 for 1 bar, then B flat 7 for 2 bars. So the first 4 measures, I'll run through that again. It's B flat 7, E flat 7, and then B flat 7 for 2 bars. So that's the first phrase, that's the first 4 measures of the blues. Now what we can do is, because we already know what a dominant 7 scale is, we can just play that in order to successfully outline the chord changes that are going by. So because our first chord change is B flat 7, we already know how to play a B flat dominant 7 scale like this. But because it only lasts for 1 measure, or for 4 beats, we only have enough time to run it just up from tonic or scale degree 1 to the 7. So the first change that you would play as far as scales would be the B flat dominant 7 scale just up. And then the chord that comes after that would be the 4 chord, or E flat 7. And then we do the same thing. We just run E flat 7 just up. Then after that we've got B flat 7 up and down. So because B flat 7 now occurs for 2 full measures, or 8 full beats, we have enough time to go up and down on the B flat dominant 7 scale. So that would look like this. So your first 4 measures of your 12-bar blues would look like this. I'm going to walk bass in my left hand so you can get a sense of the time that I'm playing in. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's your first 4 bars of the blues. It's B flat 7 up, E flat 7 up, and B flat 7 up and down. Pretty simple, right? So let's move on to the second 4 bars of the blues. So the chord changes at this point for B flat blues would be E flat 7 for 2 bars. And then this next change, a lot of people like to go back to B flat dominant 7, but when you listen to a lot of recordings of the great players like Charlie Parker or Bud Powell, Dizzy Gillespie, and a whole slew of other people, you'll notice that at this point in the blues, on starting at bar 7, a lot of the ideas that they play relate to the major 7 as opposed to dominant 7. So at this point, we're going to go to B flat major for 1 bar, and then G7 for 1 bar. Okay? So the second 4 bars, let's run over that again. It's going to be E flat 7 for 2 bars, or 8 beats is another way you can think about it, and then B flat major for 1 bar into G7. Okay? So as far as the scale outline for this portion of the blues, for the second 4 bars, as you've probably guessed by now, for the E flat dominant 7 that occupies 2 bars, it's going to be E flat 7 up and down. Simple enough. Now, what do we do for the B flat major into G7? All we're going to do is we're going to play B flat major up and down, but instead of playing B flat at the end, we're going to play B natural, because that B natural acts as the 3, or the 3rd scale degree of G7, which helps to define the chord quality. So what we're going to do is B flat major up and down, but you change the last note to B natural instead of B flat. So that would look and sound like this. Okay? So the second 4 bars of the blues, that second phrase, is going to look and sound like this. And again, I'm going to walk a little bit in my left hand so that you can get a sense for the time feel. So here's starting on bar 5 of the blues, starting that second phrase, starting right on the E flat 7. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the second 4 bars of the blues. So we've knocked out our first 2 phrases. So now we're starting on bar 9. So this is bar 9, 10, 11, and 12 of the blues, the last 4 bars. So for this section, we're going to start off with a dominant 7th scale, but it's interesting because normally when you'd look at sheet music for this, it would start with the minor 2 chord, which in B flat major, the minor 7th chord would be C minor 7, that C minor triad with a flat 7, and then it would go to F7. So if you watched the previous video where I talked a little bit about the usage of scales in regard to a 2-5, or a 2-5-1 rather, this is an example of the 2-5-1 in jazz music. That minor 2 chord into the dominant 7th chord. But scale-wise, if you watch the previous video, I proved why we can just play the dominant 7th scale for both the minor 7th chord and the dominant 7th chord. And it's because a minor 7th chord occurs on the 5th scale degree of a dominant 7th scale. So, in other words, we're going to play F dominant 7 for both C minor 7 into F7. Okay? So, the first chord of this last phrase of the blues, it's C minor 7, and then F7, and then the last 2 chords are going to be B flat major, and then F7. So as far as the scale outline is concerned, we're going to be doing F dominant 7 up and down to successfully outline that C minor 7 into F7, because again, C minor 7 occurs on the 5th scale degree of an F dominant 7 scale. So we would do F7 up and down, and then to outline the last two chords, we're going to do B flat major just up, and then F7 just up. And there you go. That's your scale outline for the blues. So let me play this last phrase in time so that you can hear what it sounds like. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're back at the beginning. So let me play really slowly for you this whole scale outline so you can hear what it sounds like in context. So again, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this is the fundamental that we need to start with before we start improvising over tunes. In other words, there's really no point in just going into improvising over a standard or blues or rhythm changes or anything like that when you're trying to improvise over scales, but you can't play that basic fundamental. So this is where it all starts. So I'll start from the top of the blues form, and I'll play through this scale outline so that you can see and hear it. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we need to focus on is being able to play that basic scale outline before we start moving into improvisation. So I hope that helps a lot, and I hope it'll aid your improvisational process as we keep moving forward through this. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.